From the ECSI Sports Studios and the #1 sports investors in America, we bring you the closing bell. As the market closes, legends Jeff Dawson and Riley Magnuson bring you all the sports investing tips for tonight's matchups. If you want to learn more from the two legends at the desk, make sure you stay tuned to the closing bell. Hey sports fans, are you ready for an exhilarating gaming experience? Introducing VIPClub.lv, your ultimate online sportsbook and casino. VIPClub.lv offers a vast selection of sports, from football and basketball to tennis and baseball. Bet on your favorite teams and enjoy the thrill of the game. But that's not all. Our state-of-the-art online casino offers a dazzling array of games, including slots, blackjack, roulette, and live dealer tables. Win big with their fantastic promotions, rewards, and exclusive offers. Join VIPClub.lv today and get a generous 100% match welcome bonus to start your winning streak. Make sure to use code ECSI at sign-up. Bet it, win it, and cash it at VIPClub.lv. Visit VIPClub.lv now and play responsibly. VIPClub.lv, your sportsbook and casino extravaganza. Must be 21 or older to play. Please gamble responsibly. Visit gambleware.org for help. ECSI fans, do you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all of your sports books and track all of your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You can also sign up for sportsbooks and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as they're the best account on the platform. Head to the App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire to download the app.
Good afternoon and evening, ladies and gentlemen, from all across the globe. This is East Coast Sports Investors Closing Bell for Tuesday, January 16th. I am your solo host for this fine evening, a Tuesday evening, talking all things Tuesday sports slate, as well as maybe a little recap here. Rocking and rolling into it. Obviously, we've got a lot of NFL news and storylines and games to talk about that we could touch on a little bit quickly here. But as far as tonight is concerned, only three or four NBA games and a handful of pretty solid college basketball games to talk about here tonight. But aside from that, this will be a short and sweet one, as we always say here. I apologize, my lighting is a little goofy here. It is a very, very weird weather day in the Midwest, as it has been the last few days. But I don't have anything else here to intro other than obviously I'm a very happy man as a Packers fan. Still alive with my team here, heading into a spot that obviously has not gone well for us in San Francisco, Santa Clara, the last decade or so, but still a young team that has beyond exceeded expectations here the second half of the season, and is scooting and shaking into another week here with still some house money here against the number one team in the land in the NFC here. So I am excited for it. Obviously, it could go poorly, but I am excited to see what this Packers team can do here. Sticking right with that one, obviously the Packers jump on the Cowboys real quick. Offense looked fantastic. Jordan Love looked fantastic. So from that respect, I am pretty optimistic. It does look like it could be rainy in San Francisco, Santa Clara on this weekend. Don't know about game time. I have no idea. Still too early to tell that. But the Friday and Saturday forecast does appear to be a little wet and sloppy. 60 degrees, so obviously not bringing the frozen tundra there, but Could be coming with some weird weather going on in San Francisco. So definitely something to watch there. The total is still 50.5. So as of right now, it doesn't look like there's any serious concerns of any type of hard rain or sloppiness necessarily. Might be totally fine. Might be just a little slick. But at least something to look out for and watch as we go into the rest of the week here. That one is Saturday night. Houston and Baltimore, 9-point spread there in Baltimore. These teams played actually week 1, if you remember. Still had very low expectations for the Texans. And if you remember, it was obviously it's week 1. Don't want to alleviate and take too many things from week 1, obviously. But it was a weird what's going on with Baltimore here. Why can't they handle this, what should be a pushover Texans team? Obviously, that Texans team turned out to not be a pushover. So maybe we're looking at it from that respect. I guess I'm trying to say here, if the Ravens show any type of rust, if they're coming in healthy and rested and clicking right from the jump, then they'll be fine. But if they're showing any rust and type of layoff here and a slow start, the Texans could give them a run for their money. Not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying if they're coming out rusty, that is one team that could be on close game watch at the very least, if not upset watch there. So obviously C.J. Stroud's going to have to be fantastic. Texans defense is going to have to be fantastic. Not expecting it, but the Texans did give him a little thorn in their side type behavior in week 1 there. But again, week 1, don't take too much there. Tampa Bay and Detroit is a rematch from earlier in the season. Detroit won that game pretty handily. That one was down in Tampa in October. Detroit 3-point favorites in that game. I actually see up to 7 in certain spots. I want to say it was 5.5 for the most part, and 6. Now I'm seeing 6.5 up to 7. I don't think it's going to go past that number there. I would say it's starting to get honestly a little. Maybe I was wrong with 5.5. I think it opened 6.5 and 6. Now 6.5 and 7. But I would say it's a little inflated. Obviously, everyone's buying into the that if you don't have a team anymore. Unless you're a Bears or Vikings fan, you're probably, even if you are, maybe some people are, I know, but the majority of people, especially now with the Browns out, this Lions team is their not Cinderella story. Obviously it's a good team, but Cinderella franchise that everyone's rooting for, that no one would be upset with outside of their rivals, obviously. So and obviously a good team in their home building against a Tampa team that I think a lot of people are ready for it to regress. So it does. I'm not saying Tampa is winning that game. I am giving them more of a chance than this line would say, but I am saying it is a little inflated in my opinion there. So could the Lions absolutely win this one? Going away and easily, absolutely. But I'm pumping the brakes a little bit. I think the way Tampa Bay's offense is playing can hang with them. I think Tampa Bay's defense will regress, and if that's why we're looking at a loss for the Bucs, I think that is the reason why. But I might be interested in the over in that game, 48.5. After a low-scoring 20-6 game first time around, this Bucs offense is playing a lot better than it was at that time right now. So I'm leaning towards the over as of right now here on Tuesday. Obviously, we got a few days. This one, I believe, is the Sunday, early Sunday game. So we obviously got a lot of time to get there. But I'm leaning towards some points in that game as we stand right now. But we shall see. Maybe that my thoughts will change there. And then Kansas City, Buffalo, obviously the closest matchup on the board. That one is the final game on Sunday there. Buffalo -2.5. Kind of a situation of who do you, obviously, if you're just taking what we're looking at right now, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, that's fine. But, I think there's a lot of people that either still believe that the Bills have something wrong with them. Obviously, they've looked great the last few weeks. I'm not denying that. Still people that maybe think what we saw earlier from the Bills could come back and haunt them, kind of like they did in the playoffs last year. Same with the Chiefs. So if you feel one way or another, this is your chance to pounce on one of these sides. I don't think this line's going to move too crazy here in Buffalo this weekend. I think this is going to be an evenly bet game for the most part. Maybe people are flocking to the underdog Chiefs there. But at the end of the day, I think if you've got stronger thoughts on either one of these teams, then you can fire away from that respect there. I don't have strong thoughts on it. Both of these teams are playing a lot better. Obviously, Kansas City welcomed a Miami team that was scuffling into their home building, so I'm not putting too much stake into that win. It was a good win. I don't want to take anything away from it, but I'm not using that necessarily as a springboard. One of these teams I think is going to look like obviously one of these teams is going to lose, but maybe this one will be a great game and they'll both look awesome like it did a few years ago in that classic all-time classic game. I think there's a good chance that one of these teams is going to struggle and look like they did throughout a lot of the point of this season. So I'm kind of backing off of it for now, waiting to see what happens the rest of the week here on that one. But as for any other recap of this past round, I mean, Cleveland obviously craters in the second half there, don't look like themselves. Something's got to go. Obviously, they lost a lot of injuries. If you're a Browns fan, you feel good about the future coming back. If you get a QB situation that's even better than what you ended up having with Joe Flacco at the end of the year, then you're in really good shape and obviously need those injuries to come back. But got to figure something out with defensively on the road. It's a good defense that just did not travel well on the road, and you got to figure that out, obviously. The Dolphins are a team that I don't think they can make any changes, and their defense obviously was a shell of themselves these last few weeks with some of the losses that they've had. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, another guy that's ascending, and hopefully that none of these injuries affect these guys' long-term careers. But yeah, I mean, you feel good that your defense is going to look better again next year, but it's a team that obviously you can't really blow up, but also there's something wrong that you need to fix to get this team right and advance and beyond this point and obviously into the AFC Championship and beyond. Rams, I think Rams now kind of out of that rebuilding zone. Obviously this year wasn't a rebuilding team, but you know what I mean. Where they in the past didn't have a lot of draft picks because they went all in. Starting to get, I believe they get their draft picks back this time around. So could be a team that is even better next year. And if Stafford and McVay stay around, which it seems like I think they will, could be another. Should be a good offense again next year. Let alone just a potentially contender and a really good team next year. So I'm interested to see what they do. Steelers obviously need a quarterback, or if you believe in Kenny Pickett, need to get him back. Whereas Philly, I'm interested to see what Philly does. Credit to Jason Kelce on an amazing career. He is out the door, but the way that ended, I'm not all for firing an entire staff that won a Super Bowl last year. Obviously, it's not the entire staff. Won a Super Bowl last year in 11 games this year, but when you have two coordinators that have gone elsewhere, and whether the record says it or not, had relative success based off compared to what their expectations were, and now this team looks the way they did down the stretch. You have to ask some questions there. So I think some changes will be made. I don't think sweeping changes will be made for Philly there, but something's obviously got to change there. So interested to see what we do there. So that is it. A little recap for the NFL, my friend. And then Dallas, obviously. I think Mike McCarthy is gone. Maybe it would have happened by now. Maybe they want to make sure they have an upgrade at head coach before they do so. But I have my own thoughts about Mike McCarthy. I think he's great for a lot of reasons, and I think he's not great for a lot of reasons. So I think they will move on from him, but that is still to be seen, obviously. And Jim Harbaugh, as we've talked about on these shows, I believe just with the Chargers these past few days. I think he'll be there. I know everyone here at the ACSI thinks he's going to the NFL, let alone, whether it's the Chargers or not. I think it's the Chargers, but we shall see, obviously. So excited for what is to come this upcoming week, starting on Saturday. Hopefully we get, in my case, hopefully we get the right upset that I'm looking for. But obviously I'm not holding my breath anymore. But very excited as a Packers fan, and I know Packers Nation is for what Jordan Love's looking like, for what a lot of these receivers are looking like. Interested to see what the defense looks like next year, but we're not there yet. Obviously, got to have one more game to get through here. So, all right, let's move on. We've got the NBA tonight. 3 games, as I mentioned in the opening of the show. 2 of them on TNT. One of them sandwiched in between there. Denver and Philly. The first one up 6:30 my time, 7:30 East Coast time. We've got 1.5 point spread for Philly at home here. 233 on the total. This is obviously, you've got the defending champions coming in, who I've kind of gone through stretches. They're 28-13. I think the 3 or 4 seed in the West right now. 25-13 Philly. Had a little bit of a rough stretch there with Embiid having some injury woes there. He's in the lineup. They've gotten 2 in a row now. Only 1.5 at home. You would like this one, in my opinion, to be a little higher. Go back about a year ago from now, just looking at the 2 matchups last year. And obviously now you got a defending championship team, so Indy Denver, so the perception around them is a little different. But Philly, 3-point favorites at home about a year ago, last year in January, 10-point dogs on the road in Denver later in the season. But my point is 1.5, and they won that game in Philly, minus 3-point favorites. Don't want to compare it too closely, but my point is 1.5-point favorites when the Sixers are playing really, really well still here this year. Get Embiid back. They've got a good record at home. Denver does not have that great of a record at home. I want to say it's 11-9 or something along those lines. Would like this one to be minus 3 or higher if I'm having a ton of confidence in the Sixers. Not saying they can't get it done. Not saying I'm throwing a ton of money down on it or any at all, but I am leaning towards this being a Nuggets number. Like I said, you've got a de facto number of the Sixers being a home favorite, just about against just about anybody. When it's anything less than 2.5, 3, I'm gonna lean towards it being the road dog, being a number that leans towards them. So I'm leaning towards the Nuggets tonight, but nothing too strongly there. It is a pretty closely bet game from what I understand. Denver coming off a couple of wins themselves. So nothing crazy to note here, but like I said, I am going to lean towards the Nuggets taking care of business on the road here tonight. Phoenix hosting Sacramento. Sacramento 23-16, Phoenix 21-18. Nothing too crazy as far as injuries. I believe the trio of the Suns should be good to go tonight. Sacramento coming in off a couple of losses, both of them on the road. Are still on the road. Fifth game of a road trip here. Finally back on the West Coast, however. A lot of those games were Midwest, East Coast. Now back on the West Coast. Phoenix home after a 3-game road trip themselves. They've won their last 2, Lakers and Blazers being the last 2 that they get there on the road. This Kings team has actually won a handful in a row in this matchup, 4 in a row to be exact. But I do feel like this is another one as compared to what I just said about obviously not it's apples and oranges, but a Suns team getting a 4.5 point spread at home against a team that's got a better record than them. Obviously, the Suns' record is partially because of some of these injuries that have happened with their trio there. But I'm going to lean towards the Suns taking care of business and continuing to play decent basketball here, potentially at home here. They are not playing well up until this point at home. Kings are only 10-9 on the road, though. So 11-11 at home obviously isn't what you'd like to see. I think that starts to turn around here, and I think they start to rattle off some wins at home here. So I do feel like this is a nice, I don't want to say a full-blown statement, but I do feel like this is, if we were talking about a 1.5 dog favorite spot or 2.5 or less or something like that, I'd lean towards the Kings. But 4.5 here, I do kind of like the Suns here at home tonight. As far as totals go, this one is kind of right around where the Kings sit. This one is 245, 244.5. Kings' last game was 245.5, and it went to 185 as a finishing total. So we're gonna pump the brakes on this one being a statement over. This one is a little higher than the Suns go, but when the Kings just went 2 days ago at 185. I'm going to back off of that one. I believe it was an overtime. Granted, I believe it was an overtime, but I still think the regulation total was still well above this. So I won't say this. I might even lean towards the under, as crazy as that sounds there. But I will go ahead and say Suns and a slight lean towards the under. But that one is more of a feel as far as a bounce back regression in scoring from that Kings and Bucks game the other day, though. So Suns and the under is where I'm going with that one. OKC and the Clippers is the late TNT game, 6.5 at home for the Clippers here. Clippers 25-14. They've been playing decent ball. 27-12 for the OKC Thunder. They obviously have been playing decent ball, really good ball all season long. Obviously, they're only 1 game back in the West right now, whereas the Clippers are 3 games back. Both of them trailing Minnesota there, with the Nuggets sandwiched in between them there, but. You've got a matchup that the Thunder have taken care of business in pretty decently here. As far as injuries go, I don't think as of now, obviously, with this Clippers team at least, can't say too early that there's no injuries. A 6.5 point spread would lead you to believe that the books don't know anything as far as Kawhi or Paul George or anyone else sitting out. That would suggest that everyone is healthy. I can tell you that for sure, at least there. Again, don't want to say for sure because I'll say that and then we'll be eating my words if one of those guys are out. But it does feel like a statement with the Clippers at home here. They have had some strong numbers at home. So I don't think this is really inflated with how much everyone loves this Thunder team. I imagine a lot of people are going to be flocking to this Thunder team at this type of number here. So I'm going to lean towards the Clippers at least winning this game and potentially covering this game and taking care of business pretty handily here tonight. If we were talking about another one where even this one, a 6.5 point statement or spread feels like a statement to me here. So I'll lean towards the Clippers. I have not had the best feel on the Clippers, just to put it out there. I do feel like I have had a nice feel on these Thunder games whenever they have these type of underdog spreads. I'll back off of the Thunder and say it's the opposing team. But again, I've had some struggles with the Clippers trying to figure out their lines there. But I will. Having said that, I am leaning towards the Clippers tonight. So that is it for the NBA. 3 games only tonight. Obviously, a lot of games yesterday. Decent college basketball slate, my friends. First one up, actually, starting any minute now, I believe, here. Florida and Tennessee. I don't know what the reason is why that one got moved up so early there or scheduled so early, but Tennessee 9.5-point favorites at home in Tennessee here. 160 on the total against Florida. Florida 11-5. They just won a few days ago over the weekend at home against Arkansas. Have had some road struggles in their 2 chances. They haven't had a ton of true road games. 0-2, however, last week against Ole Miss, 85-103 loss. It's a defense that, in most cases, aside from that game this past weekend against Arkansas, has struggled in a lot of senses. It's a Tennessee offense that is taking care of business. So this one does kind of feel a little inflated, but at the end of the day, this one feels like a statement when you got a Florida team that's not bad by any means. 9.5, 10 does feel like a lot of points. I might be more interested. You get 84.5 on the team total. If you think Tennessee's going to have a whale of a day here, and you think this Florida defense stinks, you might as well take a look at that 84.5 team total here. This Florida team at times can put the ball in the hole themselves. They've got they play at a high pace here, so you might have a 192 game, and that's Florida covering right there. So I don't think it's going to be that high scoring. The 160 total kind of leads you to believe, based off of what Florida's been doing, that maybe this one isn't flying so far over that. Normally that would be, but you've got their last 4 games here. Last 5 they've gone over. The 5th game was against a lower major team, and it was a 40-point win there. But you've got a 163 total goes flying over. 170 total at home against Kentucky goes flying over. 156.5 in that loss at Ole Miss goes flying over in the fashion of 188 points. And a 165 total that just went under, but it was a 90-68 performance. They scored 90 points themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and lean towards the under 160 and say that that's not as much of a statement. I would be more interested if it was in the high 160s if this was a statement to the over. So I'm not really sure as far as I expect Tennessee to win here and to put a boatload of points. But if I was leaning towards Tennessee on the points, I'll take it back and say I'm leaning towards the under 160 on game total in this one, as goofy as that one sounds. In the Big Ten, Purdue, number 2 now in the land. UConn ascends to number 1, I believe, per the AP poll. Purdue, 9.5-point favorites on the road in Indiana. And I've been trying to say anytime we have these Big Ten conversations here, this Indiana team is nowhere near what they were last year. Still has kicked above their coverage a little bit this year. They're 12-5. Doesn't look like a bad record, and you would say maybe they're a dark horse again. This is not a very good team. Some of their they had a nice win a week or so ago at home against Ohio State. Their last win at home against Minnesota, a Minnesota team that was really kicking above their coverage and is going to regress. Bad team last year. Not a bad team this year, scrappy team, but still not very talented. They've got road losses in the Big Ten here to Nebraska and Rutgers. This is the game at home here. And obviously I don't need to go on about Purdue. They've only got their 2 losses there that have been, I believe, both on the road. Yeah, both on the road in the Big Ten here. However, you've got a situation where Indiana won each of the last 2 games last year. And so you've got that revenge factor of trying to enact revenge on your rival from getting you 2 teams twice last year, at home and at away. The game in Indiana last year, Indiana was actually favored. I don't remember if Purdue was the number 1 team. They were without a doubt a top 10 team, and Indiana was a ranked team. Maybe I guess I don't remember if they were ranked at the time. By the time the season ended, they were a ranked team. Obviously, they were favorites against that Purdue team last year. It's a very similar team. So to see 9.5-point spread in Indiana this year is not leaning towards Indiana, that's for sure. So I will say wholeheartedly I believe Purdue will win. I think they cover, but you are still probably going to get Indiana's best shot here. But Purdue is going to be hell-bent on enacting revenge, first of all. And the difference between last year in Indiana, where Indiana was shockingly, and for a lot of people, favored in that game, to now Purdue being 9.5-point favorites. That's one thing. Not to mention Indiana has just lost. It's not the same matchup period that they have. They were a bad matchup for Purdue last year. They do not have those same guys that can help slow down Zach Edey. They just don't have it. So I would be shocked if Indiana wins this game. And I mean, could this game come down to a coin flip on the spread? Absolutely. But I will lean towards Purdue taking care of business. And I would be very, very surprised if Indiana wins for a third straight time against this Purdue team and Zach Edey here today. So there's one more in the Big Ten. We can get to that one in a second. It is I looked at it earlier. I'm drawing a blank on it off the top of my head here. TCU, number 19 in the country, underdogs on the road in Cincinnati here. A Cincinnati team that's 12-4. Haven't watched too much of Cincinnati, but they're coming off of 2 losses here. So to see a team that's unranked per the AP, just looking at the AP, unranked per the AP, coming off of 2 losses, albeit 2 tough teams, Texas and Baylor. As a home, just a favorite in general against a TCU team that we've seen take down Oklahoma and Houston each of their last 2 games. And before that, give Kansas a really, really good run for their money and is now ranked. This one is a little smelly to me. So I am definitely leaning towards Cincinnati. This is the first time these teams have met, with Cincinnati being a new member of the Big 12 here. But this one, I mean, maybe it's too good to be true as far as all signs pointing to Cincinnati here. But like I said, 2 straight wins, not only 2 straight wins for TCU, but 2 straight wins, which will, I don't know how, unless they ever have Kansas on their schedule again. It's going to be their 2 biggest wins of the season against Houston and Oklahoma there. Houston's only loss of the season, and Cincinnati coming off of 2 losses themselves. And not having that number next to their name, seeing them as favorites is going to be shocking to a lot of people. And I imagine a lot of people are going to be flocking to TCU in that one tonight. Another one, the Big 12, sort of a similar situation. Kansas State is favorites against the number 9 team in the country, Baylor. Baylor has rattled off a handful in a row here. Kansas State coming off of a loss over the weekend at Texas Tech, 59-60 as 6-point dogs. They are 12-4 in the season. Won each of the last 2 last year, so maybe Baylor will have a revenge. It's obviously not the apples and oranges to that Indiana-Purdue situation, but won each of the last 2 last year, Kansas State. So Baylor you would expect to be hell-bent on getting revenge there. At least pump the brakes on Baylor here. Baylor is I like this Baylor team. They're a somewhat of a contender here in the Big 12. There's a lot of good teams in the Big 12. I don't think they're I don't think they're a top 10 team like their number AP number would suggest right now. They are a top 25 team. I don't think they're a top 10 team. They could come down to earth today. Would it surprise me if Baylor took care of business and got some revenge on them? No. So this one, I'm not saying I'm standing on the table for as much here, but at least gotta beware that a ranked team is road dogs here, as we've seen it, especially in the Big 12. Some ranked teams that have been underdogs on the road here have fallen to the wayside these last couple of weeks here, and obviously the carnage that has been happening in the top 15 in college basketball is another story. So I do think that'll subside a little bit here, but at least got to pump the brakes on Baylor a little bit there. Kansas, not quite the same story, but Kansas at an 8-8. OK State, who I want to say is outside of the top 100 per KenPom. The number 3 team in the country, Kansas, in a spot where they did get they got their bounce back over the weekend at home against Oklahoma, pretty handily there. Now you've got an OK State team that's lost 3 in a row in conference. Baylor at home as 4.5-point dogs, 8-point dogs at Texas Tech. They lose by 17. 12.5-point dogs at Iowa State, and they lose 66-42. So to see a 6.5, 7-point spread is really bizarre here. Another one where the last couple of years Kansas has taken care of business, but there's been a lot of times where Bill Self has had some struggles at OK State. That is undisputable there. However, this one is one where it stinks. You have to be aware of Kansas here. Don't fire away on Kansas. But this OK State team is not very good. I want to say this is a similar situation that we saw last year. Actually, it's not quite the same. It was a stinky number last year. Actually, I was sort of correct. It was a very stinky number. However, it was all the way down at 1.5 last year. Kansas ended up taking care of business 87-76. So really wasn't too much of a scare at all. And this kind of is just a reflection of what we've seen from these lines here recently. This OK State team just isn't very good, but they have given Kansas a run for their money and their home building plenty of times over the last 15 years, with 20 years with Bill Self and company there. So I will put Kansas on upset watch, but I think this one might be the fake smelly number of the night. Maybe I'm wrong with that, and OK State wins outright, but I'll pump the brakes on that one. But got to at least keep Kansas on upset watch there. So not trying to go. I mean, we've been on upset watch for 2 straight weeks here with some of these teams. Last one, and then I won't say that again, I don't think. This is the other Big Ten game. Wisconsin and Penn State. Just saw myself, Wisconsin, firsthand at home against Northwestern over the weekend. They are on the road against Penn State here. This Wisconsin team is really, really tough and really, really solid. However, this Penn State team lost 3 of their last 4, lost at Michigan State, tough environment, tough situation to play in. Bounce back with a win at home against Michigan as short dogs. Lose as short dogs. Really good game against Northwestern last week, about a week ago, as 1.5-point dogs. Can't get that one done. I think I was leaning on Penn State. Couldn't quite get it done, and then they lose 78-95 as 18-point dogs, which I believe is a cover. Yeah, that's a cover, actually, at Purdue over the weekend. And now you're hosting a Wisconsin team that has ascended to number 11 team in the country. Again, I've been vocal. This is a very big year for Greg Gard and company in Wisconsin. They have lived up to I probably exceeded expectations after this at this point, especially with a couple of losses in November. So even in December and January, I think they only have 1 loss. And now you have a team that's obviously coming in red hot, playing, I believe, undefeated in conference here. 5.5, 6-point spread smells a little bit to me. This Penn State team, this is a little different from that OK State and Kansas situation. Where I would say Penn State is probably better than their 8-9 record. Not just saying that because we're talking about a Big Ten team necessarily. But you got a Penn State team, again, very similar to OK State as far as their overall standing within the overall rankings and whatnot. But you've got a Wisconsin team that is 9 per KenPom. So I don't know. I'm leaning on this Penn State team to be an upset special tonight. This is one that I think Penn State actually could win tonight. I've been decent with some of these Big Ten upsets, calling these Big Ten upsets. So I will give Penn State the cover. Maybe they don't win. This could be a really close game. But I'll give them a puncher's chance at home. They are going to give Wisconsin their best shot here tonight for sure. Wisconsin, like I said, coming off that Northwestern game, they've won a handful in a row. They've got Indiana on Friday in their home building. I think this one could be one where they're just flat out overlooking Penn State. So I will lean towards Penn State covering this game in their home building tonight. Iowa State and BYU, both these teams are actually ranked right now. Number 20 BYU, number 24 Iowa State. BYU 4.5-point favorites at home here. I really like this Iowa State team's defense. It is a team that has improved a lot from last year offensively. To see a 144 total in an Iowa State game, 146.5 total in an Iowa State game, typically leans toward the under. Had it 149.5 at the end of December, where that one went flying over. Dipped back down to 140, went under, 129.5 under, 135.5 under. With a 66 that holds, I mentioned that OK State situation, holds OK State to 42 points, held Houston to 53 points in that game there, held Houston 57 to 53. Now you've got a 146.5 point total. BYU plays at that number and higher numbers for sure. But I think a lot of people, especially with Iowa State having been one of the upsets of Houston, so I think I misspoke about Houston losing once earlier. Iowa State being one of the teams that upset Houston with a low score in there, 42-point defensive performance against OK State. I think that's living in people's minds more so than just about anything else. So I'm going to lean towards the over 145.5 on that full game total, and I will lean towards BYU winning this game and making it more their style than the opposing team's style, Iowa State. This one kind of reminds me of we've had some Iowa State. Maybe bear with me on this parallel. Iowa State, Iowa has been clashing styles, kind of like this one a little bit. Not saying BYU is exactly the same, and sometimes that leads to some blowouts. Whether that's the defensive team owning the other team and they can't put the ball anywhere near the hoop, or it goes the other way and the team that has a high, fast-paced offense is putting up 90, and the defensive team in Iowa State's case this year. Or typically Iowa State is putting up 60, 70. So I'll go BYU in a big win here. I guess that is what I'm leaning towards tonight in that one there. Not an upset. That is the only one outside of a lot of these other ones where I'm putting a lot of these teams on upset watch. I guess I didn't put Tennessee on upset watch, so that's not the only non-upset watch there. But that game is underway. Tennessee 9-5. And then there's Dayton and St. Louis, the other ranked game. Won't go too deep into that one. New Mexico, Utah State, another one there. Utah State ranked team, 5.5 point dogs at New Mexico. you do the math there, what that one could mean. That one is a late one. If anyone's looking for some late Tuesday night action, that is the 9:30 Central Time start, 10:30 East Coast start there on the college basketball slate. So maybe pump the brakes on the ranked team again in that one if you're looking at it. But again, we've reached a point now where there's been carnage in college basketball. I know I said a lot of teams here could be on upset watch. I guess Purdue is the other team I didn't. So I'm about 50-50. I'm not as putting my foot in my mouth as I thought. I am putting my foot in my mouth as far as saying it's all upsets tonight. There are some favorites that I like, and there's a few underdogs that I think could pull off some upsets. But again, as I was about to say, there's been carnage all over the place the last 2 weeks in college basketball. So on a night like this, where there's a lot of ranked teams, looking like there could be some more carnage tonight, at some point that's going to regress, and the favorites are going to take care of business. So I am pumping the brakes a little bit. The ones that I do really like, though, are Penn State to take care of business, as well as I think, I guess Cincinnati's not an underdog, but they're playing a ranked team. That was the other one that I was including in that one there. So those two for sure, and then I'll put Kansas on upset watch, but again, I don't think OK State's good enough. I think Kansas could take care of business, but it obviously smells there. So that is all I've got for tonight, my folks. NHL, I can't help you out. I apologize. There's a handful of games there, but as you know, if you followed me, I am not the NHL guy, and I can't help you out too much there. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and get on out of here, my friends. 3 NBA games tonight, plenty of good college basketball, so get yourself some good action there. If you have not downloaded the WagerWire app, please go and do so. I believe Jeff had another fantastic conversation with WagerWire's people, this morning. Had an ad at the beginning of the show. If you need to learn more, obviously you can go download their app. You can go to their Twitter page. You can go see Jeff and Travis's interviews, shows, conversations. Shouldn't call them interviews, conversations that they have just about every week, if not close to every week, just about every week there. So go ahead and check out those on our networks there. But without further ado, I will go ahead and get on out of here. Best of luck on anything that you have going on in tonight's college basketball and NBA slate and anywhere else. If there is anything, I will go ahead and get on out of here. I will be back here, I believe, with Jeff Dawson about 24 hours from now, talking all things Wednesday, as well as probably talking some NFL as well. And I didn't get a chance to talk any coaching situations too much today, so maybe we'll dive into that a little bit more tomorrow. Best of luck on anything tonight, my friends, and I will see y'all tomorrow.